Okay, we are back. What's going on, everybody, man? My name is LFR Jojo. Today, we're going to be talking about the woke bishop. That's what they're calling her, revolting against Donald Trump, as well as a few talking pundits, conservative and liberal, talking about what they think about these past previous days. This is going to be a good one. Piers Morgan, he always has a pretty good show. I don't know who the bishop is. I don't want to call her woke yet because I don't know who she is and I don't want to just give into the talking point, but this is going to be a pretty good one. If you guys have any other suggestions or you have any comments, say it down below, but this is going to be fun. Let's get into it.
Facing little to no consequences for their actions. I think it's disgraceful. And if these insurrectionists were, again, like he said, BLM, I think they would not have even considered pardons for them. So it's suffice to say that I don't think that the GOP today has steady moral.
Charged.
Yeah, many of them did, and I think it's
suffice to say that they are
steady morals when it comes to crime. But we already knew that because they endorsed.
Kamala bailed them out. Kamala raised money to bail out the people who were burning down Minneapolis. The tweet is still up. And if Trump had raised money to bail out people before they even got charged with anything, the comparison to the damage done by BLM and the January 6th is seismic, right? There were tens of billions of dollars in damages during the months-long BLM protest.
So if you guys don't know, hey, everyone who's in the chat, you guys don't know, they're talking about the Jan 6 insurrection. What's up, everybody? And they're kind of comparing it to BLM protests. Apparently, what he's saying is that Kamala Harris was promoting bailing people out for the BLM protests. And they're referring to how Donald Trump pardoned the people on January 6th. He's saying that they didn't have a trial yet. If that's the case, which I don't know if that's the case, if they didn't have a trial yet, I do think it's unfair to keep someone in jail for 1 year, all the way up to 4 years without a trial. I will never be a fan of that. I know people who haven't had trials and who've been in jail for long periods of times. Stuff like that actually happens to rappers all the time. It's happening to a rapper right now who was in jail for almost 3 years without a trial. So when it's happening to people on January 6th, I don't think you should be a hypocrite if you support it on one end and not the other. If they did have a trial and they were found guilty and they were let go, that's a completely different issue. But I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's get back.
Fauci, who just got a pardon, people couldn't even say goodbye to their grandmas and grandpas in hospitals. They had to record videos and nurses were holding it for them. Meanwhile, Fauci comes out and says, well, hundreds of thousands of people can go march in the streets because this is more important than wearing a mask and being concerned about COVID. This was when a lot of people started looking around and saying, this is fundamentally broken. And so these guys have all, again, a pardon. You can argue it should have been a commutation, could have been a pardon. Most of these guys, the 1,500 plus and gals, have all been punished already. And if you look, this is important. In Washington, D.C., half of all felony charges are dropped and lowered to misdemeanors. They basically don't put violent criminals in jail in Joe Biden's administration unless you were involved in the January 6th riot. So they weren't treated equally under justice. This was a political prosecution.
People that stab cops and tase cops and bear mace cops in D.C. get misdemeanors. I would like to see the evidence of that. I just don't understand. If you're so cool with this, if you're just like, whatever, it's no big deal. Let's wipe the slate clean. Why don't we wipe the slate clean and let out all of the BLM rioters who attacked cops too? Let everybody out. It was unfair. It was politicized.
I don't think hardly any of them were actually put in prison.
On a case by case.
But if
yes, of course they were. Of course they were. Google it, Clay. Of course they were. People that attack police go to prison.
They prosecuted thousands of people. Hold on. If there are, I'll follow up. If there are BLM protesters who were put in prison and are still there because of the actions that they undertook, the actions that they undertook, and they were prosecuted, far more so than somebody who was accused of carjacking or someone who was accused of a robbery that was not politically related, I would also support them being released from prison, because if they were treated unfairly relative to the standard of the law, to me, that is an injustice. We have to treat like crimes in a like manner.
That's what I just said. it's unfair to be subjective when it comes to crime and law. So if you have a problem with the people in Jan 6 being held without a trial, you also have to have a problem with the people in the BLM being held without a trial. I'm assuming what he's saying is that during the BLM riots, people never got sent to jail. They never were held without a trial because they never were held. I'm assuming that's what he's saying. I don't know the validity to that statement. However, I'm expecting them to provide the validity. If they don't go back at what he's saying, if they don't say that's not true, then I think it's a lie. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's a lie.
Regardless of race, gender, politics, ethnicity, or anything else.
Okay.
If we're not doing that, then I think we have a banana kangaroo republic. And to me, that is what to a large extent, Washington, D.C. justice has become, justice in quotation marks.
Okay. Listen, I just don't think you have any evidence that people that attack cops were let off easy. I just, again, there might be other people. There might have been single cases.
Here's what we should do. We should all agree.
Of a man that tased a cop.
Yeah, I don't think anyone.
And he's being let off.
I agree. Listen, Tim, I agree with you. We're in a rare place today. I'm finding myself nodding away to a lot of what you're saying. I just think that J.D. Vance was right. And if I was Donald Trump, I would not have pardoned the ones who attacked police officers because it goes against everything Trump believes about the police and law and order and all the rest of it. It's kind of disrespectful to the police.
He's not one to listen to.
It's a brave new world, Piers. We should have tea after this.
I'll get you tea. Has to be Yorkshire.
What do you guys think about this in the comments? Do you think that they should have been pardoned? Do you think that they shouldn't have been pardoned? It seems like that's even a debate between the Vice President J.D. Vance and our current President Donald Trump.
Gold, just for the record, and you need 5 bags.
Draw the line at tea.
5 bags in a pot, and you have to put the milk in the cup first, otherwise it doesn't work. I want to bring in Riley Gaines now to join the panel, host, of course, of Gaines for Girls on Outkick. Riley, great to see you back on Uncensored. Always good to have you. I want to start by playing a clip of this extraordinary moment in the Washington National Cathedral yesterday, where Bishop Marianne Edgar Buddy, who was officiating.
So apparently this is like a viral trend. The person who was officiating, what type of event was it? I don't even know. They told Trump that they don't support him. They actually said that they weren't going to do something big for him. I don't know all the details, but it should be interesting. I've never heard of a priest going at somebody that aggressively, especially a public figure. And it always annoyed me because we have some really evil public figures. Like, really think about it. We have really, really evil public figures. We have public figures who are doing murders, who are doing trafficking rings, and I've never heard of a priest going at them before. Not trying to say anything about this specific priest, but for her to say something to Trump, it's a little telling. You rarely hear a priest speaking out.
Decided to suddenly turn it into a political rally. Let's take a listen.
In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country.
A live review, Corey.
Now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families.
What?
Some who fear for their lives.
Well, Trump has responded. He took a while. His first response was didn't really say very much when he was asked by the media. And then he said the so-called bishop who spoke at the National Prayer Service on Tuesday morning was a radical left hardline Trump hater. She brought her church into the world of politics in a very ungracious way. She was nasty in tone and not compelling or smart. She failed to mention the large number of illegal migrants that came into our country and killed people. Many were deposited from jails and mental institutions. It's a giant crime wave that's taking part in the USA.
And that's a problem. We have preachers or priests who don't even preach the Bible. You are a whole priest talking about transgenders. That's whether or not you support that politically, that's your business. But that is not in the Bible. I don't understand why we have priests getting up there, putting on their wardrobe, their garments, and saying that. That's not biblical. That's literally not biblical. So it just really blows my mind how that stuff happens on a day-to-day basis. That's crazy. Yeah, if you're going to be political, if that's your political beliefs, keep it away from the pulpit, especially if your political beliefs don't even align with the pulpit. That's the least you can do. No one's saying you can't believe what you want to believe, but once you bring it to the pulpit, it's about God at that point. It's not about with your politics. It's straight about God, and you're going up there saying something that is not of God. That's just my thoughts on it.
Apart from her inappropriate statements, the service was a very boring and uninspiring one. She's not very good at her job. She and her church owe the public an apology. So I would say a fairly predictable response from President Trump, Riley. But I've got to say, I was pretty staggered that at such a moment when you got a new president, whoever it is, for the bishop to suddenly launch into what was very clearly a pretty partisan political speech, which bore very little relation to the fact that all Trump had said was there are two genders, male and female. That's it. That doesn't seem to me to be leading directly to young kids all over America fearing for their lives, unless I missed something.
No. And before I even answer that, Trump put out that tweet at about midnight. So the 12 a.m. mean tweets are back in full effect. I know. Yeah. When I first saw this video, I saw it in the same format that you just showed. It looked like a stitch almost, like one side and one side. And I thought it was a skit until I realized, of course, that it wasn't. As you mentioned, Trump's EO that he signed, which I would imagine as this is why this bishop went into this parade in the way that she did, it merely just defined male and female and indicated those are the only two sexes that exist. I would love to ask this bishop, okay, if there are more, then what are they? I know you've had Harry Sisson on this show. I love that clip of you, Piers, asking him, what are, that you say there are more than two genders. Right. What are the other genders? And of course, there's never an.
In that clip, he said there are at least two genders. I actually went live. Make sure y'all go check that out. He said that there are at least two genders. They said, can you give us a definitive statement? He kept saying he's not going to give a definitive statement. Someone in the comments said that the logic behind that is that gender is a social construct, therefore it's forever expanding, so you cannot give a definitive statement. They said that gender is not Boolean, it cannot just be two, it is not true or false, male or female, it is forever, it's social. Obviously, I disagree with that. I think there are two genders. I'm a Christian. I think that's the case. It is a little strange how a priest, ironically, of all people, a priest speaks out about that. That's just the times that we're in. That's interesting, An
answer. So it's wild to me that we live in this time where we have to applaud such decisive and executive action. Truthfully, I don't want to, because it's like we're applauding someone for saying that the sky is blue. But nonetheless, that is the point of decay that we have reached as a society. So it's a big victory, and it's certainly worth celebrating. And I think this female bishop is just your classic progressive pastor, quick to speak of God's grace, but hesitant to condemn sin. And so preaching half of the truth isn't preaching the gospel at all.
Yeah, I mean, Dave Smith, I just found it extraordinary that she went to go to DEFCON 3. There are children all over America fearing for their lives simply because Donald Trump said there's male and female out there. That's it. That's how we're now going to deal with this issue. That's how people are going to be referred to. How does that lead? Where's the correlation to a load of American kids terrified for their lives?
Well, I mean, look, and I just think this represents so much of what we've had to deal with insane wokeism over the last decade, at least, and what has just been rejected by the American people. And you nailed it, Pierce, right? It's that this is clearly a political speech. This is how the woke do it, right? It's clearly a political speech, but you present it as if you're transcending above politics, and it's just about morality, but obviously it's not. And look, the two major political issues that she was hitting on. Number one, I mean, I completely agree with Riley on this. And if humanity survives for another 50 years, when historians write books about this time period, it will just be about the mass psychosis and how madness just swept, culture. And this stuff is just it's so ridiculous. And again, like the example of you asking that kid how many genders there are. Nobody can answer the most simple questions when it comes to the trans thing. Like the most basic one of why can't I identify as a horse? Yeah. If objective biology doesn't exist anymore.
No, I've actually been on this. I identified on International Women's Day.
You can.
Several years ago, I identified
as a
Dave. Well, I can go better. I can go better. I identified as a.
Can I also? Okay.
Well, Dave, the point.
what they're basically trying to say, without I guess without rage baiting, is that there's no real logic to this topic when it comes from leftists. They don't really have a logical pattern that they follow. It's like every day it changes. Every single day it's a different answer. They say you can identify as whatever you want. If Piers Morgan said he identifies as a woman, they said, oh no, you can't do that anymore. And then you ask them why you can't do that. Oh, we can't tell you why. You just can't do it. It's a social construct, and we decided you can do that. It's just, it's hard for anyone to defend you logically when there is no logic in you guys' decision. Also, when it comes to gender, that's also a religious point of view too. It's a religious debate. A lot of religions just believe it's two genders. That's what we believe. But it's like this conversation doesn't go anywhere because one side is being fair and the other side, in my opinion, is not being fair.
What I was going to make was on International Women's Day a couple of years ago,
I
identified on the show as a black lesbian because, frankly, if self-identity is limitless, why can't I?
Exactly. And let me just, by the way, to your point of your response of like, I can identify as a whore. Yes, okay, I can. And the correct reaction to that should be for everyone else. You're an insane person.
You're not a horse.
And you're also a person, a human being.
Yeah,
not a
just
horse.
for the record.
But anyway, and then with the whole this whole like weaponized empathy about immigration. I mean, look, Pierce, I'm sure you've seen some of the most recent polls. Americans agree by super majorities that they reject the de facto open borders of the Biden administration. And so to make this political speech while the guy, which is against the politics of the guy who just got elected, and also against what has been wokeism and open borders have been rejected by super majorities of the American people. And so to make this speech in this moment was just totally inappropriate. And just, I don't know, there's something about it that I find disgusting. This thing where you just hide behind like, there are people who are afraid and the trans kids are afraid. Yeah, you know what? There are other people who are afraid that these progressive maniacs are going to propagandize their children more with this gender nonsense. And I'm a little bit more concerned for those people. So we've had an election. We've had national debates about this. That stuff has been rejected again by super majorities of the American people.
It has. Ali, what are your thoughts on this? I really did think it was hit completely the wrong mark. You know, she may feel all these things, but to just start, I mean, it seemed to me the biggest problem the Democrats had in the last 4 years, culminating in the terrible beating they got in the election, was that they kept scolding the American people. Constant scolding, culminating in Barack Obama scolding other black Americans. If you don't vote for Kamala because she's black, effectively.
Bro, I used to hate that. I used to hate that because that is facts. That is a fact. Why can't you just tell me what she's going to do when she gets in office? Why is it always, oh, if you're black, you just need to vote for her? Why? Like, why? What is she going to do when she's in office? Why are you just saying, if I'm black, I need to vote for her? This really makes me, for one, that's a little racist, for one. And it makes me a little skeptical of who Kamala Harris is. Does she have real policy that she's going to implement? I think that's a little more important. The same way Trump went in office and signed 1 million executive orders. Which executive orders would have Kamala Harris signed? I don't know what she would have signed. I still don't know what she would have done. I really don't. And the only thing I do know is that I'm black and I should have voted for Kamala Harris. You should vote for Kamala Harris if you're black. Not based off of the policy she's doing, not based off the party she represents. Just because you're black, you need to vote for her. And that came from Barack. I was like, Barack said that? Wow. I was like, wow. That's crazy.
Then there's, you're betraying black people. Is this constant, self-righteous, high moral scolding? And they took a terrible drubbing in the election. Trump's back with a bang. And rather than be clever and move on and evolve as a party and work out how to find the next Bill Clinton or someone like it who can actually take this head on and be a proper opponent, it seemed to me they've learned nothing. You say you're a Democrat now. Did you enjoy what that bishop was saying, or did you not think like I did? Wow, have you not got the memo that people are fed up with this stuff?
Okay, let me start off by saying the slippery slope argument is not a real argument of, oh, people are going to start identifying as horses. That's
is reminiscent of
oh my gosh,
the gay marriage era. That
There
is what
we
you said.
go.
The gay marriage
No, it's
era
not.
where people
I
said
did
that people
not
were going
say
to
that
start
before.
marrying their pets. It's
It's
ridiculous.
a logical. Listen, it's not, again, just to not strawman me. I'm making a logical analogy.
Yeah.
I'm not equating the two things, and I'm not saying that transgenderism will lead to people identifying as a horse. The point is to attack the logic. What's wrong with me saying I'm a horse? You now have to respect my identity as a horse. What's wrong with it is that objective reality
you're
exists.
not a horse. Yeah,
exactly.
The point is the point is, Ali, limitless self-identity means that anyone anywhere can identify as whatever they like. And the reason it matters is that this goes right to the heart of the trans debate, say in women's sport. I want trans people to have the same rights to equality and fairness as everybody else on this panel, including me, right? What I don't want is women's rights being trashed in the process. And when you allow people who are born biological male with all the advantage in terms of power and strength and speed and so on, when you allow them to simply put their hand up and say, I'm now a woman and I want to compete against women in women's sport, and then they start performing immeasurably better comparative to how they were performing against other biological men, then you realize the problem. And this is why the Democrats, one of the reasons they lost.
I don't even understand what she said it was a logical fallacy. Can someone explain that for me? How is that a logical fallacy? It shows that your logic is flawed when it comes to this. I thought that was common sense here.
That last ad that Trump did, Kamala's for they, them, Donald Trump's for you. One of the most effective ads in modern times. There's a reason. Because most people actually went, yeah, he's got a point. We're fed up with this crap. So did you, honestly, Ali, when you heard that, Bishop, did you think, great, really needed to be said? Or did you slightly wince and went, we haven't got the right memo here?
No, I really respected what she said, actually, and I think she has a lot more guts than a lot of politicians do. Not many people get to sit and talk to the vice president, the president, and their families face to face like that. And so she could have easily just, put her head down and complied. And I think they needed to hear what she said, whether they wanted to or not. They clearly didn't. But I truly believe it was important for them to hear that. And it shows just how truly cruel, callous, and anti-Christian that these people actually are. And another point is that trans people have existed since the beginning of time. They will exist. They'll always exist.
Did she just call them anti-Christian? She just said they're anti-Christian. That's crazy. Somebody said, Jojo, have you changed your opinion on Obama? I think I remember one of your early videos that you were perplexed on people's views of him. I was very perplexed that people did not like Obama. I was saying this previous election, it really did shock me that he said I wasn't black if I don't vote for Kamala Harris. I know I'm laughing, but I'm only laughing because it was just so unbelievable. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. It's like you're trying to scold me like you're my father or something and force me to do something because I'm black, but then simultaneously complain when black people get discriminated against when you are pushing discrimination right now. So I guess my opinion did change. I still can't believe he said that. Back to this woman, Megyn Kelly. Well, it's not Megyn Kelly. I don't know who this is. She looks like Megyn Kelly to me. She said that it was anti-Christian to not support transgenderism. I don't even understand that logic at all. If anything, it would be anti-Christian to support transgenderism. But what do I know? I may know nothing, apparently.
The Republican Party's current position is that there are only two genders and trans people don't exist, or it's made up. And that's just not true. There are a lot of transgender kids that genuinely are scared. If you haven't met one, just say that. But I have met one, I've met many, and I have transgender friends, and they are scared because there's a target on their back by this incoming administration. And I understand the Republican Party's concern about men and women's sports. That makes it sound very scary and perhaps dangerous, but I think there is a common sense solution to having inclusivity and not isolating transgender kids from their friends or sports that they want to play in high school that aren't even at the competitive level, because we simply think that they
Make sure you guys like and subscribe.
There is a common sense.
Why can't they just compete against their biological sex like everybody else has to? I mean, let me bring in Clay Travis quickly on this because it's a big issue. This I just felt like, wow, here we got Miss Bishop just didn't get the stop scolding everyone memo and just sounded ridiculous.
Yeah, and I give credit to Riley, and I think Outkick has really been outspoken on this. But when she had to swim against a grown-ass man in the NCAA championships, and everybody saw it for what it was, a complete and total farce, I thought that a lot more people would, in the political arena, say this is ridiculous. But Democrats somehow have painted themselves into a corner that they just had a bill that all it said was, if you get taxpayer funding, you should compete against the gender on your birth certificate. Peers.
And that's the thing about the Democratic Party that really upset a lot of people. It really upset a lot of people. It goes into they're very secretive. They did things that we didn't really even understand. That's why a lot of people who in this election didn't vote Democrat. If you look at the voting results, that's why Donald Trump won the popular vote. That's why he won the House, the Senate. He won everything because. And I said this in my videos a lot because I thought a lot of Democratic people watched them, but obviously not. I said I need to be a little more open. Even when it comes to this, Donald Trump is talking about the pardon that Biden gave to his family. He gave it to his family, but he didn't say why he gave it to his family. He just gave it to the family. That's crazy.
This guy went around giving everybody pardons. And you know, the funny thing, maybe the sad thing, is he didn't give himself a pardon. And if you look at it, it all had to do with him. But
that's crazy. Why did you give your families pardons? And if you're going to give people pardons, at least give yourself a pardon so that, let's say you do know something's about to go down, you can, I guess, be safe from it or something. You might as well just go all the way. Give yourself a pardon.
2 Democrats in the entire House signed on for that bill. Every Republican. Now, we are winning on this issue because it is an issue of common sense, which I think doesn't even really have a strong political association in the real world. According to the New York Times, 65% of Democrats don't think that dudes pretending to be women should be able to compete in women's sports. 94% of Republicans, 80% of the population at large. You just referenced that ad. Do you know who it performed remarkably well with? It ran in every football game that I watched. Yeah. Black men, Hispanic men, white moms. All of them watched it and said, yeah, this is ridiculous. And let me hit you with identity politics, Pierce, because you said you can be anything. I actually want to push back, and I think it kind of goes to how broken Democrat identity politic beliefs are. Do you remember Rachel Dolezal, the woman out in Spokane, Washington, who was the head of the NAACP, said she was a black woman? They ended her. They canceled her. I think she's on OnlyFans now. I don't know who's the market there for fake black women, but maybe she's making a living. I hope she is. I'm for capitalism. But think about this. Democrats now, as party orthodoxy, believe if you claim to be a different race, you are racist, cultural appropriator. It's unacceptable. If you claim to be a different sex, everyone has to believe it. And you're a hero and courageous, and there are poor young kids that are suffering.
Clay, that's a very,
he thought he was a Jedi.
Yeah, look, that's a great point.
No, he's going in right now. He's really snapping right now.
Jedi school.
Yeah. Well, look, that's a great point.
Make sure you guys like and subscribe.
Rowling,
please like and subscribe, y'all.
They got gunned down in the most vicious, appalling manner. Death threats by the 1,000, people trying to cancel her, ruin her, shame her, whatever, just for standing up to protect women's rights. I never saw a single transphobic thing she ever said, but she was branded the biggest transphobe in the world. And it was that kind of ridiculous retribution against people who tried to stand up for common sense. Tim Miller, just finally, you on this story. It's such a vote loser, this whole issue.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are snapping at Trump, not because of what he's done, but because they just simply don't like him. Even these Democratic or liberal talking points, I really am trying to make sense of it. Lord knows I'm trying. I really am. I try to be objective, even to the point where I lost subscribers because I was being too fair or too leftist. I don't know. But it just don't be making sense. Every time I hear these liberal talking points, they don't make sense. I'm not gonna lie. It is like they're condescending too. It's like they present the information and they're like, "Oh, you should just know this. You should just know this. Oh, you don't know this? No, teach me. Why do you believe that there are more than two genders? Why do you believe this? Why do you believe that deportation of illegal immigrants is wrong? Why do you believe that? Why do you believe that if you come into America illegally, they can't kick you out? This is Trump's border czar talking about ICE agents. Apparently, he's this super big villain now. Let's see.
Operations have officially begun with the focus on immediate threats to public safety. It comes as border state Arizona introduced their ICE Act, which would officially require the state to comply with ICE detainers, but the state's AG speaking out against the president's plan.
I also will not have any part of and will fight the attempt to set up what I believe are essentially concentration camps and family separation camps in the state of Arizona.
Here to explain it, all borders.
Even saying concentration camp is extremely distasteful. A concentration camp was when people were forcefully taken out of their homes that they owned and put into a camp where they did mandatory slavery until they died. That's what a concentration camp was. What is happening now is nowhere close to a concentration camp. Come on now, like, this is crazy. This is crazy, man. Like, I get it, you don't agree with him, but to say it's a concentration camp.
Our Tom Homan. All right, Tom, listen, before I get to these Democratic AGs, can you give me the latest numbers on the border?
Absolutely. Look, the greatest president in my lifetime, he's back. Because in 2 days, the last 24 hours, total apprehensions on the southwest border, 766. Compare that to the 10 to 12,000 Biden had at one time. CBP-1 releases, 0. CHNV, Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela releases, 0. Total of 766 across the entire southwest border. That is a game changer.
And that is just some of the plans that have been implemented so far. Now let's talk about the 22 governors, Democratic governors that plan on resisting, the attorney generals that are doing this. Tell me the legal authority that they have and the legal authority you guys have if they plan on resisting federal law.
Look, I find it strange that the attorney general from Arizona makes such statements because there was a lawsuit in Arizona a few years ago, the Show Me Your Papers a lawsuit in highest courts in the land that said immigration enforcement is a federal responsibility.
I don't even understand how this is a debate. I really don't get it. I'm not gonna lie, I don't get it. It's illegal immigration. If you really have a problem with this, and I urge you, if you are liberal, leftist, Democrat, please hear me out. If you genuinely have a problem with illegal immigration, please try to lobby the government so that they can change the immigration laws so that immigration can be better for lower income citizens in other nations. Because I'm assuming the people who are crossing illegally the most are the ones who probably cannot afford to go through the legal immigration process. If you really want long-term change, if you want things to change forever, try to change the law. Because if you don't try to change the law and just allow illegal immigrants to get into the country at quadruple the rate, what's going to happen? They will get separated from their families. They will get deported. There will be people getting pulled out of schools to be sent back. That's what happens. Please, if you really have a problem with this, I understand you may be upset. Try to change the law because we're a country ran off of laws, point blank, period. But anyways, it's LFR Jojo. I'm going to end the video here. Please make sure you like and subscribe. Like right now if you have not liked. Please. Okay, y'all. I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.